We are here at the end of the regular season of the high school football calendar, even all the other sports. And Joel Bryant from High School OT in studio with me. All right, let's talk about the final weekend of the high school football season. What's still left to decide in high school football?
It's actually a lot. So the new RPI formula this year, it's causing more changes week to week than we saw last year.
Okay.
Because your own team's win percentage is higher this year in that formula.
Sure.
So any added loss or win you add to it's going to change it a lot. So there are a lot of things that are still up for grabs. There's some teams that are so far ahead that they won't be caught, like Cleveland in 7A. They're going to be the 1 seed.
Right.
But then there's some teams where they could end up having a bye or not, just based on how things go on Friday night. So it's going to be interesting.
All right, give me, before we get into some of the projections, what are the interesting games tonight that will potentially flip a lot of things?
So the one I think of is tomorrow night. There's actually
That's what I mean, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
There's
there are some tonight,
okay,
but
my
they're
fault.
not really too
I forgot it's
interesting.
Thursday.
Yeah. But there are games tonight because people don't want to play on Halloween in some cases. But,
It's scary to. Never mind.
well, it's just like it's the scheduling of like the officers and everything at,
Right,
at the
okay.
games and
Good point.
stuff like that. So there's a game in Forsyth County between Northwest Guilford and RJ Reynolds. RJ Reynolds is a 7A school. They're pretty much locked into the 7A playoffs, but Northwest Guilford is the first team out of 8A.
Okay.
And the interesting thing this year is that we have the moving east-west line. It used to be set in stone for the past 4 years. If Northwest Guilford goes up, if they get into the playoffs in 8A, that will send Jordan from Durham back to the east. Right now,
Jordan's in the West?
Right now, Jordan is in the West.
I saw that. I was looking at the projections. I'm like, wait a second. Isn't Jordan in Durham?
Yes, because that line moves now. So it's dependent on the
fluid.
24 teams that make it in 8A. Then you take those 24, and then you find the line.
Oh,
with the
I see. Because there's fewer teams playing 8A high school football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if Northwest Guilford got up into that 24 slot by beating RJ Reynolds, that would send Jordan back to the east and complicate things out here, where Jordan would be, ultimately hosting some teams probably from Charlotte early on in the playoffs if they stayed west. So that'd be kind of interesting.
It's a haul.
Yeah.
Well, but I guess it's going to happen. It's a long state.
It is. It is. It's a feature of the state. It's very long.
We have all right. So we have that. Any other games jump out to you before we look at the projections of the playoffs?
There's another one between a 7A and 8A. Richmond is a 7A.
Classic team, right?
Yes, and they're playing Pinecrest, which is 8A.
Yeah.
Pinecrest struggled last week against Hope County. They won 26-23, but they had won 8 straight games. But the Richmond-Pinecrest game, I think that will kind of change some things because the Pinecrest is currently ranked very high in the 8A West. They're also West. But if they were to lose to Richmond, they're probably going to go down to either maybe 5 or 6 or even 4. So that would change some seedings. And those seedings matter when you get into the third round and the fourth round. Like where's that game going to be?
Right. It matters for home games.
Yes.
Like completely unrelated to high school football, but my son's school is right now seated 5th in their soccer bracket.
Yep.
So that match which would end up being a quarterfinal match
in the third round
would be on the road.
Yep.
And
against the 4 seed.
We'd love to have it at home because I don't want to drive all the way to Dunn.
Yeah.
Never mind. Nobody cares. All right, let's get to some football. Let's start with 8A. Right now, I don't know how much has changed in the last week since we last did this. Joel Bryant, High School OT, is here. But what are we looking at in the 8A?
So not too much has changed at the top. Huff is still the number 1 team in the 8A West. They're probably going to be the favorite to get through the state championship. The interesting thing is, like I was saying, that kind of 2 through 6 area.
Right, and that's where you have Jordan, by the way. Jordan is a 3 seed in the West.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff can change with that. If Jordan goes east, that's going to send them out, put teams up. If Pinecrest loses, that's going to put these teams up as well. The thing I want to pay attention to is West Charlotte. So this West Charlotte Huff game, they used to be conference rivals. They're not rivals anymore in conference play. They kind of avoid each other, in scheduling this year. If West Charlotte stays at that 4 seed, they would have to play Huff in the third round.
Right.
So West Charlotte's probably going to want to get up to number 2 or number 3. So that game happens in the regional final.
Correct.
And that one is it's interesting because if West Charlotte gets up into Huff's area, then it kind of opens up the bracket for the rest of the teams in the bottom half. But if West Charlotte gets sent down to the bottom half, then it's going to be harder for those teams to advance to the regional final.
Let me ask you one quick question because I'm just looking at that bracket, and we're talking about the 8A West. Mallard Creek is the 6th seed right now as it is projected. If I'm not mistaken, they gave Rolesville a pretty good thrashing at the beginning of the season, did they not?
They did.
At Rolesville, right?
It was at Mallard Creek.
It was at Mallard Creek.
Yeah, it was still pretty,
So that for Jordan, that would be a pretty dangerous second-round game.
Yeah, that'd be tough. That'd be tough.
Even more reason for Jordan to want to come back east. Is the West harder than the East?
It is, generally speaking, just more population out there and, more consistent programs, I would say. The East, I mean, Millbrook is probably as good as those teams, but as far as maybe that second tier, it is probably going to be a little bit more towards the West.
All right, let me go to the East. Hoggard is still the 1 seed. I believe Hoggard was the 1 seed last week. Rolesville, who had that tough start, has
rebounded.
Rebounded very well to the point where they're a bye. How dangerous are they? And Rolesville, and I don't know if Rolesville and Millbrook have played this year, but they are on opposite sides of that little quarter of the draw, right?
Yep. Yeah, Millbrook beat Rolesville pretty handily when they played earlier this year, but Rolesville's defense has been coming into form, I would say. The offense is still catching up to what it was last year, but the defense has been performing pretty well of late. So if that's heading in the right direction, I would expect that probably inevitable second matchup to be a little bit closer this time around. I would still pick Millbrook at this moment.
All right, let me flip to the 7A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing about 7A.
Wait, when I said 7A, Joel just went, "Okay, let's go."
So a lot of people think that 7A is better than 8A. And that's because you have Grimsley, you have Weddington. Interesting thing with that Mallard Creek team you're just talking about, Independence, which I believe is the 3 right now in 7A West, they beat Mallard Creek 35-0 a couple weeks ago.
How much?
35-0. And you're talking about Mallard Creek being the 6th seed in the 8A West versus the 3 seed in the 7A West. I mean, that kind of gives you an indication of maybe the balance of those two classifications there.
No, and there's no doubt about it. Look, I see so many historically good programs in 7A. So let me just ask you, because I know last year we basically had 4 classifications. Right. I know there was A and AA, right?
That wasn't last year.
Okay.
Last year we just had 4.
Oh, we just had 4.
Yeah.
So,
it's confusing. It changes all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time where I did color for some of the high school championships, and we did a Richmond County was in one of them.
Yeah.
And they're always good.
Don't call them Richmond County. They prefer Richmond Senior.
I apologize.
Because their rival is called Scotland County. So that's the distinction there.
We hate them.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in school population between 8A and 7A?
8A is going to be the teams that are pretty much 2,200 kids and up about there.
Right.
7A, I think, is about 1,700 to that 2,200 about.
So, there's no difference.
Not really. So, the thing is that, the biggest school in 8A could be almost twice as big as the small school in 7A because some of them are up in the 3,000s. But generally speaking, those programs haven't been the best football programs. So, it's interesting that I think you get to a certain point population-wise where it doesn't matter.
Right.
I think it definitely matters when you're talking about the lower schools and 1A versus 2A. It definitely matters then. But I think you get to a certain point when you have 50 kids on a team. I mean, how much better is the 70th kid going to be than the 50th kid?
I mean, I can just see that in my untrained eye, and I'm watching boys soccer. When you're playing we're a 3A school. We played against one 7A school this year and one 6A school.
Yeah.
And they just have bigger, players.
Yeah.
They're just more players to choose from, and they have, in general, bigger players.
Yeah, it's a better chance at finding someone unique, I would say.
Right.
It just improves your odds of finding those kind of players.
No doubt about it. All right. Who are the best teams, regardless of classification? Who do you think the best teams are?
I still think it's Grimsley, even without Faison Brandon. We are hearing that he might be coming back in the playoffs.
Do they want him to? I mean, I don't. That's kind of loaded.
It's a tough question.
That's loaded because the freshman has been good.
The freshman has been good. I'm sure the coaches would still probably prefer to have the number 1 player in the country playing for them. But
I guess
the question really is, it's with Faison and maybe Tennessee even where he's committed. Do they want him risking that thumb injury? So that's a question that they have to answer. They have to figure that out probably personally. And then go from there.
Who's the biggest threat to Grimsley in 7A?
It's Weddington. Weddington, the 2 seed. Weddington just
They're on the other side, at least.
Yeah, they won the 4A state championship 2 years ago. And they have, like I said, Thomas Davis Jr. at linebacker and then his cousins who were 4-star defensive linemen.
Right.
They added the Duke commit mid-season, the safety, Katie Cotton from West Charlotte. Weddington is very good on defense. Offensively, they're not quite as dynamic as Grimsley, but the defense, I mean, there's going to be nights when they're shutting out people in the playoffs, which is uncommon.
All right, Joel Bryant, high school OT, is with us in studio. I know we did this last week. Who's the best in 6A? I don't need to know who the number one seed is. Who do you think the best is in 6A?
So last week there was a big game between Ashbrook and Crest. Crest is probably considered one of the best teams in 5A, and Ashbrook's one of the best teams in 6A. Ashbrook beat Crest by a touchdown last week.
Okay.
So I think that solidifies Ashbrook as one of the best teams in 6A. Obviously, right now they're the 3 seed. They have Watauga, Northern Guilford ahead of them right now. Watauga, very good program. They're very well coached. Their coach Ryan Hobbick might be the best coach in this state. They finally have a chance this year to really contend for state championship. They're one of the teams that was playing at the 4A level with these big schools from Charlotte, and now they don't have to play them anymore.
Okay.
Because they're 6A now. So Watauga and Ashbrook, those are the teams I'm looking at. Northern Guilford, they're 8-1 right now. This is one of these teams that always finds themselves in these close games, but always comes out of them winning. I think over the past 2 years, they're literally 9-0 in one-score games, which is just insane.
I've thought about this. I meant to ask you this last week. We had so much devastation in the West.
Yeah.
Is that are we back to almost being structurally normal out there, or are there still a lot of issues?
I think it's been a good comeback for them this year. The smaller schools have been doing their regular thing. The Smoky Mountain Conference with Murphy and Robbinsville and all of them, they've had a pretty good season in terms of fans and success in the field too. The Asheville schools, I don't think they're quite as good as what they were before. I have no idea if that's like a Helene thing or whatever. I know that AC Reynolds, they had a quarterback last year named Eli Hamrick who left for Crest after that hurricane, and he's still at Crest this year, so he would have been a senior for AC Reynolds this year. So it could be stuff like that where it's just like marginal things that kind of add up.
We also know that there are roads that weren't and might still not be open.
Yeah. I know last year there were definitely cases where kids literally couldn't get back to the team, so they couldn't rejoin the team. I'm not sure the state of every road out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were still issues with that.
All right, final thing. Who's the best at 5 in 5A in your estimation?
I still think it might be Crest. It might be Crest, even
That's
though
right, Crest plays 5A.
Yeah, even though that lost to Ashbrook last week,
and they're only the 5 seed in the West right now, right?
Yeah, so that 5A West is really challenging. I mean, you have East Lincoln, they have a quarterback, Grant Lawless, who's going to Wake Forest. Then Crest, so I mentioned Eli Hamrick, the quarterback, he's going to Virginia. So you have 2 ACC quarterbacks in that 5A classification. Hickory has been this team that's been very consistent, just loaded every year. South Point, they're solid. And J.M. Robinson, they have some younger kids who are going to be college players. So that's probably the hardest one to figure out is that 5A West. But I would probably put my money on Crest or East Lincoln coming out of that.
All right, now I'll just leave you the floor. Anything we need to know? This is the final weekend and when it all starts.
Yeah, so stay tuned to the playoff projections on High School OT. They're going to be updated every single day. We have football games tonight, so that's going to change some things tomorrow. Soccer's getting updated every day. And then seeding Sunday is going to be the big day. We're seeding both football and soccer on Sunday. It's going to be in the afternoon. The folks are going to go to church before they start seeding.
They can pray for whatever they want.
Yeah, so it was actually a big controversy because they were planning on doing the football brackets on Monday, which football coaches did not like because they like exchanging film on Sunday and preparing because they don't want to show up to Monday without a practice plan. Soccer was going to be on Friday, but they shifted it to Sunday. So now it's all happening on Sunday. We're going to have full coverage of the brackets. We're going to have alerts and stuff when the brackets are updated, and we'll have the brackets on High School OT.
I know what I'm doing Sunday.
Yeah,
we gotta find out where everybody is. Joel Bryant at Joel Bryant HSOT on Twitter. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.